If you're making a game, you want the ending to bring closure, a sense of a story told before you bash the player over the head with around 40 to 45 minutes worth of end credits. You might also, if you're pretty sure your game is going to get a sequel, add in a tease for the next game, a shocking twist or cliffhanger that will have players running in their droves to buy said sequel. It's a brilliant trick, except in the very specific circumstance where, despite your clear expectations, that game never materializes. Oops, these games never got the follow-up they clearly assumed was coming. Beware spoilers for the following games, but you know, they never got a sequel, so the stories aren't going anywhere. So.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
I'll think about it once we figure out a way to return to Terra.
That's a very good point, Sarah. So what are we going to do, Mega Man? If we can't get back to Terra, then I can't give Roll her mother back.
Mega Man Legends 2, released in the year 2000, starts very strong. After all, as a sequel to Mega Man Legends, it continued Capcom's efforts to bring the conventionally 2D Mega Man into a brave new world of 3D environments and ambitious RPG-grade storytelling. Also, the irritating robot monkey from the first game gets set on fire in the first 5 minutes. Nice. And so begins an epic adventure for Mega Man and his pals. One that eventually ends many exploded robots later, with our blue-suited hero heading to space, specifically to Elysium, the planet of advanced technology that hangs high in orbit. Here, Mega Man hopes to put a stop to the carbon reinitialization program, which is a polite way of describing the end of all human life on Earth.
Execution of carbon reinitialization program has been paused.
Mega Man does this by defeating a misguided AI named Xtra, but in the process his transport home gets knackered, stranding him on Elysium far from his best friend Roll, which Mega Man would probably find quite an alarming turn of events if he didn't have total confidence in the existence of Mega Man Legends 3.
Don't worry, Yuna.
Why?
I know Roll. She'll come looking for us, no matter what happens.
Mega Man, my sweet summer child. Alas, despite a subsequent sequel clearly being anticipated, the conclusion to the Mega Man Legends storyline in fact never appeared. Quite possibly because financially the Legends series wasn't terribly successful compared to other Mega Man games. Which means canonically, Mega Man is still stuck up there on Elysium. A rescue effort was made in 2010 though, when Mega Man Legends 3 was announced for the Nintendo 3DS. Intended to be made with long-term Legends fans in mind, this long-awaited conclusion to the Legends saga was going to bring Mega Man home and would even have featured community-created characters and bosses.
レジェンズはですね、途中でなくなってしまうかもしれないんでですね、ぜひみんなのパワーをください。
Nice, nice. It was cancelled a year later. Hope Mega Man found food and water up there.
Sorry, Mega Man, but it looks like you might be stuck up there for a little while more.
Rumors abound of a dark alliance gathering against Baldur's Gate, of the hateful spirit of Eldrith the Betrayer, of a black tower of onyx in which she seethes and plots. Adventurers flock to the western heartlands to forge their destinies in the fire of battle. Even now, some make their way down the tradeway, moving southwards towards Baldur's Gate.
The Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance video games might not seem to have much to do with Dungeons & Dragons at first, except that they involve a lot of die. See? But in fact, these grisly hack and slashers are set in the Forgotten Realms setting of D&D, the famous tabletop game published by Wizards of the Coast. Dark Alliance 2 was released in 2004 for the PS2 and Xbox, and begins with the revelation that the playable heroes from the first game have been taken prisoner by a vampire lord, who has what might be the most vampire lord name in all of fiction.
I am Mordok Salanmir.
Well, he was hardly going to do anything else with a name like that, was he? I am Mordok Salanmir. Would you like fries with that? The second game is an epic goblin-smashing slog to free those companions and get even with Mordok. But in a shocking twist, just before the end credits roll, you find out that this most wicked of vampiric lords was merely a pawn in a bigger game, being played by a sarcophagus in ancient Egypt or some kind of fantasy equivalent.
And what of Mordok, priest?
Utterly destroyed almighty Pharaoh in an attempt to hold the tower.
His failure cannot be allowed to hamper my sacred mission. We will leave Mulholland and see to the matter ourselves. Raise the tomb soldiers and prepare my sun barge.
As my God King demands.
Who is the God King? What is the sun barge? Can the sun barge be rented for the weekend? Literally none of these, or any of the other questions you doubtless have, ever got answered, even though Dark Alliance 2 ends with a bold cliffhanger cutscene that suggests developers Black Isle Studios fully expected to get a chance to continue the story in a sequel. Unfortunately, Black Isle never got the chance. Parent publisher Interplay shut the studio down a mere month before Dark Alliance 2's release date, amid financial woes, a lawsuit alleging the game engine used by Dark Alliance had been deployed in other games without permission, and the loss of the D&D license itself. So, despite Dark Alliance 2 perfectly teeing up Dark Alliance 3, players never actually found out what the heckins was in that sarcophagus. Let's just pretend it was puppies.
There is something very familiar about you, Yankee scum. Is it possible that you have a brother? Nothing to say? Then I shall pay a visit to my other American prisoner and see if his tongue is as resistant as yours.
Medal of Honor Rising Sun is another game that, like Mega Man Legends 2, clearly thought it would get a sequel. And it also begins with a fire extinguisher sequence, weirdly enough. If you don't want your sequel to get cancelled, don't do a fire extinguisher bit, I guess. This 2003 shooter was the fifth Medal of Honor game and set its World War II inspired action in the Pacific War, where you play as a lad with the forgettable name of Joseph Joe Griffin, who is a soldier, along with his brother Donnie.
Joseph, is that you? Oh man, it's good to see you. You made it up to California, I can't believe it. We got real problems. We got overrun by the enemy and lost the truck with all our demolition gear.
Joe and Donnie fight alongside each other for about 5 minutes until Donnie is declared missing, presumed exploded, after this happens to a truck he's in. As the game unfolds, Joe's focus shifts to bringing down the sinister Commander Shima, who in the game's final mission is aboard a Japanese supercarrier, prompting Joe to infiltrate with the help of Philip Bromley, a British special agent who has been so highly trained in covert warfare he actually forgot how to speak British as a result.
Right, here's the plan. There should be a huge ventilation system below decks to prevent the buildup of lethal gases. We are going to find those systems and break them so the fans are always on. Next, we locate the fuel tanks, damage their valves so that they're spraying vapor, and the fans will spread it all through the ship.
Sorry, Philip, could you repeat that? I didn't get anything after Mary Poppins step in time. Moments away from sinking Shima's supercarrier, however, Joe and Bromley are captured, and here comes the shocking revelation. Your brother Donnie is alive! Held captive by Shima, who makes a bid for escape with your sibling held hostage.
Say goodbye, American fool. This is as close to your brother as you will ever get.
Of course, Joe won't let Shima get away with this. Oh, hang on, sorry, I'm just reading here, he actually does get away with this. While you can blow up Shima's ship, the villain himself makes a clean getaway with Donnie. Why? Because publisher EA was actually planning a direct sequel to Rising Sun in which he would play as Donnie, and as a result, was perfectly happy to let this game end with the brothers' storyline left completely in limbo. The only very slight wrinkle in this brilliant scheme was that Medal of Honor Rising Sun isn't actually very good, and in the wake of some decidedly middling reviews, EA binned any plans for a part 2. Which is an extra kick in the pants for anyone who made it all the way through the first and only game in Joe and Donnie's story, only to find there was no narrative resolution at all, just a tease for a non-existent sequel from Major Bromley.
Well, Griffin, we need to find out where Shima's taken your brother. It's up to you and me, mate. We got a bit of a debt to repay.
I assume the debt they're talking about is a refund from EA's accent coach.
And the walls protected our families. Loved ones.
Remember, we're a team. I'm right there with you.
It's a freelancer job. Always has been. but the anthem still rages.
Anthem is the critically acclaimed game from EA that received widespread praise from fans. I'm sorry, I can't keep this. Anthem was EA's attempt at a Destiny-style, always-online multiplayer game, where players took on the role of freelancers. No, not people who constantly have to chase invoices, but people who constantly have to chase and shoot loads of aliens. These freelancers dressed up in fancy combat exosuits known as javelins, and just like an IRL javelin, post-launch Anthem crashed into the ground, nose deep in the dirt. Why? Well, the problem was it just wasn't very, good. Many players quickly tired of the repetitive gameplay, and Reddit user _Robbie found that it had dropped off of Xbox's most played games just 3 months after launch. Ouch. But what most players will not know, because they likely didn't finish the game, is that EA fully hoped, or perhaps even expected, developer BioWare to make a sequel. Oh, you know what, it's our job to write jokes here, but I don't think I'll write anything funnier than that last sentence. Sequel to Anthem. Players who did complete the story all the way to the very end found themselves led away in the closing moments by Tassin, the red-clad spy who gave you your Javelin exosuit.
There's something you need to see.
Here, a brand new character is introduced to you and secretly reveals to you the next threat on the horizon, these blue alien things. They're probably scarier when they're not lying under a rug.
But can you keep quiet about this? We don't want to freak people out.
Despite this hint at a follow-up adventure, Anthem didn't even finish its own roadmap for the first game, with developers at BioWare instead forced to rush in and fix this boring broken game to relaunch as Anthem 2.0. But in 2021, the game's director, Jonathan Warner, left BioWare, and all work on the overhaul was stopped. So, unless a portal spits one out of a hell dimension, we're not getting an Anthem sequel anytime soon. Oh no, but what will happen to the blue alien things?
Goths.
Goths? How rude! Goths are people too!
Take Carmelita and get off this thing!
We all need to leave right now! That maniac just tore a hole in time-space!
I need to finish this fight here and now, for the whole Cooper clan. And I'm the only one who can glide out of here.
This whole blimp could disappear any second!
You may not be familiar with the star of this next game. Well, we'll let Uncharted's Nathan Drake introduce him for us.
Careful, careful. A real thief would know just how valuable those are.
And I suppose you know what they are, huh? Squirrel Boy?
That's right, it's Squirrel Boy. Oh, hang on, sorry, it says here, Sly Cooper? Doesn't sound right. Sly was the star of a whopping 4 fun, cartoony stealth platform games, originally developed by Infamous and Ghost of Tsushima developers Sucker Punch, and culminating in 2013's Thieves in Time, made by Sanzaru Games. It's a rollicking time travel escapade in which Sly comes out of retirement to fight alongside his friends to stop an evil skunk called Le Paradox from erasing his prestigious thieving family history.
Look at this, my marvelous contraption, the time tunnel.
Thieves in Time is a light-hearted but heartwarming adventure right up until the very last minute when Sly, dueling Le Paradox atop a blimp, F's everything up by showing mercy, the fool.
I guess you won't be doing any harm from a prison cell.
As I said!
So ridiculous.
At this point, things take a turn for the morose. Sly, trapped aboard a blimp that leaps through space-time, is lost. And a maudlin final cutscene shows Sly's usually wacky best friends left reeling in the wake of his loss.
At first, we just waited, assuming Sly would show up the way he always did. But as the days stretched into weeks, we had to face the fact that he was truly lost. We've stopped talking about it all the time, but I know it's all we're thinking about, even if we show it in different ways.
You're probably thinking that Sly would get reunited with his friends eventually though, because no cartoon game about heist raccoons would conclude this sadly, right? And we have to think developer Sanzaru Games had these same thoughts, ending Thieves in Time on such a downer cliffhanger with a plan to heal the vibe in the next game. Except, this is the last Sly Cooper game that got made.
Out of everyone, I think she took his disappearance the hardest, even if she never shows it. At least not in public.
In 2014, Sanzaru confirmed it had no plans to develop a sequel, so this long-running saga ended with Sly vanished. Despite persistent rumours that Sly Cooper may return, he's not been seen officially in nearly a decade, with the only clue to Sly's fate being a secret ending cutscene if you get every trophy in Thieves of Time that shows Sly waking up in, oh no, are you serious, Ancient Egypt again? Developers, keep your heroes away from the pyramids. They are cursed.
All right, Jones, how are you gonna find that statue and all this junk?
Indiana Jones is no stranger to games, what with Lara Croft and Nathan Drake both stealing his whole deal. But he's also been in plenty of them himself, what with creator George Lucas owning LucasArts, the developer behind many amazing games. Hey, I didn't say they were all amazing. Where LucasArts really shined, however, was their point-and-click adventures, and Indy got a couple of his own. There was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, based upon the film of the same name, and an all-new adventure, Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. This second game saw additions such as better UI, more music, and fully voiced characters.
Sophia, where are you?
We've got her, you foolish Americaner!
I think we can add German to the list of accents being butchered in this list today. Despite some dodgy voice work, this is a classic LucasArts point-and-click adventure, full of somewhat confusing puzzles, but ultimately very endearing. And while the game came to a nice solid conclusion, players who beat it and stayed to watch all the credits like a good little gamer were rewarded with this message. New adventure? Much younger man? Sign me the f*** up for LucasArts' Young Indiana Jones. But another classic point-and-click LucasArts game featuring a youthful Indy never surfaced. There was Instruments of Chaos starring young Indiana Jones from Brian A. Rice Inc., a hard-to-control platformer, and the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, another platform game by Chris Gray Enterprises based on the TV series of the same name, which aired before Fate of Atlantis came out. According to a report on mixandmojo.com, the final message in the LucasArts game was actually in reference to a different Young Indy tie-in game called Young Indiana Jones at the World's Fair, which was an educational title being worked on by Brian Moriarty. In an interview with the site, LucasArts artist Bill Eakin revealed that it wasn't too popular at the studio, saying, "Brian Moriarty was working on a young indie game that a lot of people didn't like very much. I never saw it myself, but I heard horror stories." If there's one phrase you really want to hear people saying about your educational children's game, it's horror stories. It seemingly got canned, most likely thanks to so many people at LucasArts hating it.
Ow, I've seen better landings.
Him too.
And thanks to various development problems, Iron Phoenix, a planned unhinted-at follow-up to Fate of Atlantis, got cancelled too. The closest the world ever got to the game teased at the end of Fate of Atlantis was The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones Revolution, a point-and-click DVD extra game on the 2007 box set of The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones. So if you want to play that today, you'd need A, that DVD box set, and B, a DVD player, which we suspect rules out literally everyone. If anyone can find that box set, please tell us. It belongs in a museum!
Like I said, there's more to this story. There's 2 more times when Earth will be in danger, and each time a hero must stand up to defend it.
Looks like the party's about to begin any minute now.
Beautiful Joe 2 is one of the only games we continue playing even after it called us crappy to our face. Ow. Reason being, this side-scrolling beat-em-up sequel is one of the best ever made. Like the first Beautiful Joe, it's super satisfying to play as you platform, puzzle, and most importantly, beat the ever-loving heck out of waves of bad guys. All while swapping between playing as Joe and his girlfriend Sylvia, who use time-bending VFX powers to wreak havoc across movie-themed locations, like this knockoff Jurassic Park. If Spielberg's lawyers call, we're not home. What really takes the wind out of the game's sails, however, is that this sequel was, based on its final cutscene, very clearly meant to be part of a trilogy. The story involves Joe's father Jet turning temporarily evil via strange artifacts called the Black Film and a Black V-Watch in a bid to impress his strong son.
Puny humans and your eager desire for happy endings.
Jet turns good again by the end, however, in time for a fond father and son reunion and an unasked-for dose of toxic masculinity from Joe's mentor, Captain Blue, a man whose belly button looks like it's trying to punch its way out of his abdomen.
Men don't need words. We don't need excuses, apologies, or all that finger-pointing stuff. We solve everything through action.
Here's an action for you, Captain Blue. Buy a bigger shirt. That's only the beginning of the end, however, because what follows is a castle bursting out of the floor with no warning, and the most ostentatiously confident setup for a third game in the Beautiful Joe trilogy you can imagine.
Guess the ceremony's cancelled. But this show isn't over yet, because the Earth will face 3 threats. There's still one last big threat left. Right, Uncle Jet?
That's right. The secret behind the Black Film and the Black V-Watch lies in the last threat. But there awaits an enemy beyond your imagination.
Wow, sounds incredible and narratively satisfying. When can I play it? Is the answer never? Yes, it is. That third threat never made itself clear because Beautiful Joe 3 was never made. Capcom-owned developer Clover Studio, who also made Okami, was dissolved 2 years later. Some of its members went on to found Platinum Games, known for Bayonetta and Nier Automata, but there has never been any whiff of a third Beautiful Joe since. The closest fans got was a Nintendo DS standalone spin-off in 2005, and not only did that game not tie up any story from the second game, it introduced another unresolved plotline when a new evildoer rocks up 30 seconds before the end credits. Oh, come on!
So those are the video games that clearly thought that they were going to get a sequel, and why not watch the sequel to this video here? No, we can't promise that. We're not going to do that. But here are some old videos that you can watch. Hey, maybe we'll make a sequel if you put in the comments your suggestions. We'll do a commenter edition sequel. That'll be fun.
Kind of prequels, though.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, these are the prequels. Enjoy these and subscribe if you haven't already. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. If you really want to support us, why not join the OX Supporters Club on Patreon, where you can join our Discord and we can bemoan all the lost sequels that will never happen.